Hello guys at AA Investments, and you know what time is it's earning season. Well, big giants such as Tesla, Amazon, Facebook, and many more, they had all the earnings last week, and I'll show you, this video is gonna be basically, I'll show you how I go through the balance sheets and what I look for, any announcements made, and what future expectations do I have from this kind of company, and all just by using a phone, nothing else. So let's get to it. Chrome, whatever, Firefox I do use DuckDuckGo, and you basically type your Tesla share, you type your stock share, name of the company, then you type IR after that, which is basically investment relationship. That's what it stands for, which basically directs directly to the investment relationship websites. And usually pops up in the first one. You click on the link where it says IR, then you search for something called Q10 filing. Here you click on download the report. Okay guys, after opening the report of Tesla, as you can see, it gives you just the cover page, the headlines, and my main concern out of all of these is going to be the financial statements. So let's get to the financial statements. It might look a lot and values everywhere, you might not make sense to you, but with time everything, you will get the hand out of it. And yeah, it's simple if you just understand what kind of the words mean, which I think everyone speaks English. Revenue is basically all the sales, how they made money basically in the previous quarters. And then you can see the numbers of quarter 1 of 2021, quarter 2, 3, 4, 5, and the last previous quarters. And then below it you'll find the cost of the revenues, how much it cost them to sell these cars and everything, and compared to all the other values. And then below that you can find the operational expenses, so basically like selling, how much the employments cost, you get it. And then you can find the income of operations, so basically how much did these operations have kind of an income impact on the income of them. And then the main important thing is basically net income, which is the total income minus the expenses and everything else. And yeah, let's go through this one in the beginning. So basically here the revenues, if you want to have a detailed look, you can check the automotive sales, leasing, energy generation, and many other services. So let's go to the car, for example, sales. Let's see how much money they made from just selling cars from the previous year. Okay, quarter 1 they're getting better. In quarter 3 they made a huge change. Quarter 4 as well. This year they quite of missed last earn like compared to last quarters, but it was understandable because of the chip shortage. It wasn't only the automotive company got affected, and as I believe as well, like all the other Neo, General Motors, Ford Motors, they all, even telephone makers, antenna makers got affected by this, but pretty decent, just off by 300 million, which is not that best, but it's kind of understandable. So basically what I mainly look at is the total revenue to see how much they basically made. I look all of these in details to see where they make more sales and how is their business going, because at the end Tesla is mainly auto sellers. As well, I look into the electric generation and storage to see if they're making, because Tesla for me is not only an electric company, a car company, it's as well an electric company, like a electric supplier. And looking at the number 656K, it's getting, they're selling almost 1 billion almost in electric generation. That's pretty, oh no, that's the wrong values, my bad. So quarter 1 last year they made about 293 million, and 370, 570. Okay. This year, okay, they did that. Look, these numbers tell me a lot. Basically, this quarter they didn't make as much in the previous quarters from electricity and generation, which quite, I will have to have a deeper look into it and see why they're not making as much money because, okay, that's pretty interesting. But then looking at the total for me as well, like then looking at total revenue, see if it makes any difference. And looking at the values, they kind of missed from last quarter's earnings by a bit, but that was mainly, I think, from the electric generation and the car sales. But 10 billion is good. Looking at the cost of the revenue, so basically I just look at the total cost of the revenue. First quarter of last year, they made 4 billion, cost them 4, okay, and then it got a bit more expensive, okay, more. This year kind of costs got lower, probably because of the chip shortage. Many people here, as you see, the auto sales got a bit less, electric generation as well got less, so yeah, they cut a bit of costs on that, understandable. Then looking into operation expenses, which is basically the expenses of operation, people, employments, administration costs, development costs. Usually the research and development, you will always find it as an R&D, which basically means if you see a lot of spending in this, it means for me that the company is doing research and developing themselves. So if I see the number of research and development getting higher, for me as an engineer, I really think that this is a good step and one of the most important steps in a company. Because the more money you take and the more money you invest in yourself, the higher of market share you're going to take later, and the more new products and better systems you're going to build in the future. That's my point of view. That's why I love Amazon. Amazon is one of the biggest companies that invest in themselves. And we can go through that report and check, have a quick look. Looking at the previous year's quarters, yeah, Tesla's pretty much investing in themselves, which is a good sign for me. And then looking at the total costs, they're spending much more. Okay, administration cost is getting higher. Okay, why not? It's not that important for me as much. And then the main important thing is net profit, to see how much they made. Basic net profit is all the costs minus the revenue minus all the costs they had. And we can see if they're making money or not. Okay, 89. This year they made, okay, this is a high record, 464 million, I mean, which is nice. They're making money basically. And then looking here, next page for me is gonna be the balance sheets. So we see the assets they have. Yeah, it's quite of useful, but for me as well, the main focus for me, the assets, is basically in the beginning to see how much cash they have. That's one of important aspects for me. Properties, to see if they're making any new solar panels. For example, this is Tesla, so they're making any planets, equipments. And then, as I recently heard, Tesla just bought for 1.5 billion bitcoins, and that's I find it really interesting as well. So cash, let's look at the cash. They're getting, okay, you can see it last quarter of 2020, they had 19 billion in cash. This year it was 17. That means about 2 billion got spent on something, which will make up with the numbers here, probably in R&D and administration costs and many more. And then looking at the properties and properties and solar systems, it's getting actually less. So they probably sold some properties and everything, which is honestly, oh no, this is the wrong values. Okay, 10,000, 11, okay. They're actually getting more, which is pretty good. That means they're spending money instead of spending it on bad stuff. They're spending on assets. Assets are always kind of good for a company for later investment. Looking at Bitcoin digital, okay, 520, 505. It doesn't say anything in the Bitcoin. They didn't have any Bitcoin. They have 1.3 billion. So they sold about 200 to 100 million worth of shares in Bitcoin, which is what Elon Musk said. Basically, he wanted to show the big investors that it is possible to liquefy Bitcoin, and which I think is not a bad move. Which obviously then most people and the young investors didn't like. But for me, I didn't really mind it, because he's gonna buy Bitcoin again, I'm sure about that. Or he's gonna get Bitcoins from the people. He allowed Bitcoin payments, so he's gonna make Bitcoins from that alone, you know. And I'm sure all the young generation, such as me, for example, if I had Bitcoins, I would have bought, definitely 100%, I would have bought a Tesla with Bitcoins. Why not? Or Dogecoin, for example. And then looking at the cash flow, okay, yeah, this is, so basically if you want to go through all of this, here cash flow, for example, stock-based compensation shows you how much they've been paying the employees and how much the compensation is. And if they're paying, for example, here as you see, the company didn't make good this quarter, but last quarter was good and they paid them less, which is a pretty good sign. But then if in this quarter, instead of paying last quarter, they paid 633 million in compensations, stock compensations, and if this quarter they paid them more than the last quarter and the earnings weren't as good as that last quarter, that means the company is not that good, and it's a bad sign for me. So, and they are looking through the other, you can look through all of the other things to give you a bit more details, but we've been through the most important aspects. Let me know what you think in the comments, and hit the like and the subscribe button. See you.